Thank you guys so much for joining Tyromper's No Limit Podcast, episode number 6 today. I am especially fired up. I got my brother in the house here. This is a man that has lost over 75 pounds and kept it off for the long haul. This is a man that's completely transformed his life, his mind, his body. This is a man that's walked 10,000 steps a day for over 7.5 years without ever missing a day. Let's talk about consistency. This is a man that's been featured in Men's Health. He just recently completed a half Ironman, which I'm pretty pumped to talk to him about. This is a man that I am honored and pumped to have on the podcast today. My brother, we've interacted 1,000 times. So glad to meet you. Mr. Matt Izzo, welcome to the pod, brother.
Thank you, Tyler. I am honored to be here and honored to be on your podcast. You know, I've had a pretty successful last year on Twitter, but it really started with you. I think when you followed me, you were complaining about one of the Karens at the outdoor gym yelling at you. And I think I might have had like 12 or 14 followers at that point. And I had gained -2 followers for the preceding 3 months. But you followed me, we hit it off. And ever since then, it's been a meteoric rise upward for me. So I think you're to thank for that. So thank you for that.
Brother, I'm happy to be a small part because I've loved you from day one, man. You fire me up. You're a man that I look forward to on my timeline every day. You're just dropping wisdom bombs and you're just so encouraging to everyone too. And then I feel like, you know, having the past you've had, you can relate to everybody and you're not one of these guys. It's like, you have to do it this way or that way. You're very empathetic towards people, but for anybody who might not know you, which a couple of years from now, you're all going to know Matt Izzo, but maybe give the listeners like a little background on you, man, what you're about.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I'm somebody who I was fat from an early age, you know, going back in the 80s, back when all the kids weren't fat, right? I was the fat kid in class. And it was really a hard way to live my life. And, you know, I've struggled with obesity for over 30 years. I lost 75 pounds 3 times now, right? Gained the weight back twice, but finally this third time I've kept it off for over 4 years now. And I've transformed from lots of weightlifting into becoming an endurance athlete. And now I do triathlons and running and stuff like that. So it's just been a great transition for me these last 5 years, ever since I made the decision to turn my life around and get healthy.
Man, I love how you said that too. You made a committed decision, just one decision that, hey, my line is in the sand and I'm going forward. Could you talk a little bit about, and maybe this is why I've always resonated with you and loved you so much, man, is, you know, you seem to have a lot of empathy because you did grow up, you know, maybe you didn't look or feel the certain way that you wanted to. And I kind of always prided myself on, hey, man, you know, I want to be empathetic to everyone. I want everyone to win. This isn't like an exclusive class. Hey, if you're fit, you get to hang out here. No, man, we want everybody to feel well and do well. Can you kind of talk about growing up and what that was like and, you know, kind of being overweight and low energy and you know, how you dealt with that?
Yeah, you know, it really hurt. You know, and you know, I felt excluded, you know, from a very early age, you know, like I didn't fit in, and it was hurtful. And obviously it spirals, right? So once you don't fit in, then you don't fit in, and then you know that builds on itself, and you end up in a negative cycle, right? So childhood can be a painful place. And the way I got through it was by really disconnecting from my emotions, you know. So you start to suppress and repress a lot of those painful emotions and disconnect from that just to make it through the day. So the day to day is not so painful, you know. And I can either look back at that now with some regret and say, well, I didn't handle those sorts of things as well as I could have, or I can look back at it and say, well, I did what I needed to do to survive, right? It got me through what I needed to get through at the time. Maybe not the ideal way to handle it, but it worked. And I was able to get to a place where eventually I could heal those wounds and you know, set myself on a positive trajectory.
That's awesome, man. And when you were back in that state, did you have anybody kind of encouraging you or helping you back then? Or did you feel kind of on your own at times?
I've always felt kind of on my own, you know. It's been hard, you know. I like to say that I thought I hated myself because I was fat, because when you looked at me, I was fat. I would look down, I'd see it. I'd see all the other kids were thinner than me, and I didn't fit in. And you know, being a visual person, right? That's kind of what you jump to is, well, the biggest difference between me and them is I'm fat and they're not. So I thought I hated myself because I was fat. It turned out I hated myself and I was fat, right? So obesity ultimately is a symptom of some sort of repressed or suppressed emotional negativity or emotional trauma, right? And that's what causes us to overeat and overeat chronically to the point where we become unhealthy because we've eaten so much, right? That's an energy imbalance, and that's something that needs to be fixed. So I've set about the early part of my adult life basically figuring out, how do I get out of this and how do I turn it around? And it took a long time, and I made many missteps on the journey, but I finally got some traction, and I'm definitely headed on the right path now.
That's awesome. And I'm so proud of you, and congratulations for turning that around and keeping that off for 4 years. That's one thing you see when you watch shows like Biggest Loser and things like that, these people that don't do it in a sustainable way. And then they go, it's easy to lose weight, right? If you're working out with a trainer 4 hours a day and you have chefs cooking all your meals, but then when you get back home into these stressful environments, that's why you got to create sustainable systems, habits, and routines to stay on this trajectory, right? If you're looking back, Matt, what would you say to maybe somebody that's watching this in their teens or their early 20s, or maybe even their 30s, 40s, whatever it might be, but hey, they're overweight and they've always kind of felt like this too. Is there any kind of encouragement you could give them, or a place where they could start?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, like I said, it's, there's two prongs to it. One of which is the actual practical losing of the weight, right? And that's something you have to do in order to heal yourself emotionally, because everything's connected, right? Mind, body, spirit, emotions, these are all connected. So in order to become a healthy person, we'll say, you need to lose the weight. And that means eating a calorie reduced diet for a long enough amount of time to lose the weight, right? Getting some exercise, strength training, weightlifting, walking, all great when you're starting out, starting to log your foods, making better food choices, right? To actually lose the weight. But then the other prong of that is healing the emotional situation that has led you to become obese, right? And there's a reason that this happens. It's more than just the fact that there's so many unhealthy foods in our society, right? And all this stuff, right? That preys upon the people who are susceptible to that. But that explains, I think, why there's many people who are not obese, right? You'll see people who aren't obese and they're still in the same environment, surrounded by these same bad foods, right? So what separates the people who aren't obese from people who are obese, right? And I think this is a question that has plagued people for a long time. And from my perspective, it is that emotional work you have to do. You have to figure out, healing your self-image, because your self-image is ultimately what dictates your reality. So if you see yourself in a negative way, you see yourself as a fat or obese person, then that's what you're going to continue to do. All of your activity and everything you do is going to be working towards that, right? That's how self-image works. And you can fight against that with some willpower, right? Yeah. I did that, just go at it, diet, be super disciplined, but eventually your willpower is going to give out. I don't care who you are. It's not sustainable for a day in, day out way to live your life, so you have to heal your self-image and get it to a point where you can sustainably live a healthy lifestyle that's not done through willpower, right? And they always say, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change, right? That's kind of a cliche, but it's true. So what you need to do is really, I would say meditate is huge, doing some meditation, and that can take all sorts of forms, but gaining some control over the mind, right? That's really an important first step to get in there. And then, doing things like journaling is great, and just feeling those suppressed emotions and those repressed emotions, feeling them, accepting that they're part of you, and accepting that you feel that way. And then just letting it go, because ultimately it's in the past, and you can just let that stuff go and work on rehabilitating your self-image through a series of small wins, and just seeing yourself in a different light. And eventually you're going to see yourself in a completely different light. And that's when it gets exciting, because that's when it just kind of takes care of itself. And you're just going on momentum, and you really can't be stopped. Instead of a downward spiral, you're on an upward spiral.
That's huge, man. I feel like many things to touch on there, but I'll touch on that last one. Huge is momentum can carry us either way, right? And I always say that, like, if you've been laying around on the couch all day, you're way more likely to stay on that couch. And that's why whenever I start to feel tired, a lot of times, man, I'll just go out in the garage, even if it's 5 minutes, just to get up and hit some pull-ups, hit the row machine, take a walk, just whatever, keep yourself in motion, and that works day to day. That also works like year to year, man. And, you were way less likely to work out and do these positive things because you had not been doing them for a while. Well, then once you kind of stop and you start to identify, and what you said there was so powerful. Hey, Matt Izzo's a guy who's a healthy guy. I start identifying as this, right? You are whatever you tell yourself you are. I really believe this. And so, I can relate this in a different way, and we all struggle with different things, right? Like I've been a professional poker player for 10 years and still play a lot, but I remember my first trip to Vegas, Matt, and I showed up and I like to gamble. If I'm very honest, I have a weekend, right? And I lost $5,000 playing blackjack my first trip here in a matter of like 8 minutes. Like I lost like 14 hands out of 15, and I was like, holy cow. And I realized right then, yeah, I'm probably, this is something I'm going to struggle with, right? So I remember journaling about it. I remember getting really intentional and saying, if I'm going to be a poker player and I'm going to be around casinos and I'm going to be around this stuff, I've got to promise me and I've got to decide I'm not a gambler. I play poker and I grind it out. I play the skill game, but and since then I've never bet more than, a few bucks if I'm with the casino with my wife or whatever, because it's just, I had to tell myself who I am and who I'm going to be moving forward. And I think that's a really powerful statement you made. So when you started to turn that corner, did you do affirmations? What did that look like for you?
Honestly, it was something that I kind of stumbled into, right? So I lost the weight with willpower, but I was giving a lot of thought to self-image and those sorts of things. But, it's just a series. It really has to come down to a series of small wins, because like you said, what you tell yourself you are, but that's only true to a certain extent, because you have to be able to back that up, right?
Sure.
If you're lying to yourself about what you're saying you are, then it's a lie, right? So there has to be some level of credibility associated with that. So that's why it's just about stacking those small wins, right? You can have a big goal, but you have to break it down into much smaller things so you can win every day, right? If you have to lose 75 pounds, you're not going to do that in a day. You're not going to do that in a week. You're not going to do that in a month. You've got to break it down into smaller, more manageable goals. And then, with the other stuff, it's really just a question for me of, like I said, I had suppressed and repressed so many things throughout my life, so many just painful memories. And, just really thinking about them from a different perspective. And I mean, I could go through the top 10 most traumatic moments of my life right now, and I could tell you how each one of those was a positive for me, because everything has a positive, right? If you can find that and you can feel those feelings that you've avoided for all these years, and just let them sit inside of you, and just do that non-judgmentally, and just feel it and realize their feelings, that they come and they go, and just let it go, right? And it's not a process that happens overnight either. Depending on how much stuff you've repressed or suppressed over the years, this might take weeks, years, or months, and maybe something you even need professional help with. Obviously everyone's going to be a little different there, but I really think that obesity is rooted in the fear state. We'll say negative emotions are all tied to that fear state. So the reason for obesity is that fear state, and that's what you ultimately have to confront to overcome it.
Yeah, that's huge, man. And I say, like, I appreciate a lot of what you said there. A big takeaway for me there is, hey, it doesn't happen overnight, right? Like, and that's where, I think a lot of people fall short, is they do get fired up. They get pumped up. They're going to diet for 3 weeks or for 5 weeks or a 30-day cleanse or whatever. And, you alluded to it earlier about, it's a lifestyle change, and you do stack these small wins. That's what I work with my clients all the time, is like, I just got off a call an hour ago with a new client, and hey man, we're building in wins to his day every day. These things are automatic. I don't care if you feel like it or not. You're going to do these very easy little things that are going to keep the ball rolling forward. So you're just building that momentum every single day and getting better, right? And sometimes if you're starting small, like, it's just a walk. It's just dude, you're just walking every day, and then maybe you're just making one better food choice that day. But I think a lot of adults, and where they get stuck, is they've just been in this cycle for so long. And then let's be honest, with society now, man, it's very mindless, right? Like, people just go home, they sit in their car, they sit at the office, they sit at home to eat, they sit and watch TV. and this is their life. And so somebody who's kind of in that cycle, what would be your best advice to kind of break that?
Yeah, I movement, you alluded to it earlier. So you mentioned I had a 10,000 step streak. I walked 10,000 or more steps
Awesome.
every day for 7.5 years. And I can give you the story behind it. Basically was in Christmas of 2013, my mother gave me a Fitbit, and I opened it and I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I ever got. I'm never going to use this. Right. So whatever. Later that day, I'm bored. I'm like, oh, let me open this thing up, see what it's about. So, I put it on. It was one of the simple ones, but back before they even got fancy, just had some lights on it. So I walked 10,000 steps that day and the next day and the day after, right? So I got in the habit of doing it. And after about 2 weeks, there was a big snowstorm and I only walked 8,000 steps that day because I still walked to and from the bar, right, to get some drinks in. I only walked 8,000 steps, and I felt bad about myself, because I've been unhealthy for a number of years, and I felt like I started a healthy habit. I said, and this isn't that hard, walking 10,000 steps a day. I can do it easily, but I just fell short because I had time for drinking, but I didn't have time to walk another 2,000 steps for another 25 minutes and hit this goal that I've been hitting. So I made a decision that day. I said, I'm going to walk 10,000 steps every day, right? If I don't do anything else, I'm going to walk 10,000 steps every day. And I did, but I didn't lose weight for 2.5 years. Okay. Because diet is what dictates your weight, right? Weight loss is 90% diet, but was that time wasted? Not in the least. Because I spent 2.5 years walking 10,000 steps every day, and that built a healthy habit in me, and that was raising my energy levels every time I did it. It got me outside, it got me under the sunshine. It encouraged me to when I was at work, working at a job I hated. I got out of the building and I went and I walked by this beautiful lake for a few minutes every day, and it was great. And I didn't realize at the time. But this was building energy and building momentum in me. So on the day when I finally decided to start losing weight, okay, I was actually in half decent shape for somebody who was 235 pounds because, I walked 5 miles every day and I already had at least one habit built into my routine. So what I'm able to do is layer habits on top of that, right? And then you start saying, okay, well, I'm getting some activity in me. Well, what sort of diet can I do, right? So let me start working on diet now. And starting small, right? Starting with, I like to say, boulders, not pebbles, right? Go for the big things, right? So then you start to build some momentum, and that's where it goes from there for me.
I love that, man. Boulders, not pebbles. I've never heard that. You need to tweet about that, man. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I have a client here. Shout out to Ryan. I bet you'll watch this, man. And he just started doing the 10,000 steps a day too. He actually texted me this morning. He hit 15,000 yesterday. He's really fired up about it. And, just changing that. And then one little thing, he had a muffin and one of those sugary coffees every morning. He just replaced the muffin with a piece of fruit. And then the sugary coffee is just water or black coffee. Dude, he lost 14 pounds in 7-8 weeks. And it's like those two little things. And I think that's what a lot of people fall short on here is they think, oh man, Matt lost 75 pounds. This must be some complex rocket science type deal that I can't do. And what I'm hearing you say is, hey, you take one little win, you take one little habit, you make that who you are and part of your life. Then you take another little win, another little habit, you make that who you are, and you play the long game. You're not trying to become Superman overnight. But now look, man, I mean, how old are you, Matt?
39.
39, brother. And now you have literally the rest of your life to be super healthy. So, if you're watching this and you're 30 and you feel overwhelmed, or you're 35, like, dude, in a couple years, you can absolutely, in a year, you can transform and change your life. And I think you're a living testament to that, man.
I started losing weight September the 8th, 2016, right? I had hit just about rock bottom Labor Day weekend. Before that, just a lot of drinking and stuff. And I didn't feel good about myself and I was kind of lost. And then I couldn't sleep. It was before sunrise and I was out for a walk because I couldn't sleep. And I challenged myself to run a mile at 235 pounds. And somehow I lumbered through that whole mile. And then I came back in the house and I said, you know what? I'm losing weight. That's it. I stepped on the scale for the first time in probably 8 years, and it was 20 pounds heavier than I thought it could have been. Right. And I was like, oh man, but what I realized at the time was, and I had experience losing weight. So I knew what to do and I knew what the process was. So I had that experience and I knew it would take me about 9 months. So I said to myself is, well, this 9 months is going to pass either way, right? So right now it's September 2016. Soon it's going to be May of 2017, right? So when it's May 2017, where do I want to be, right? Do I want to be 160 pounds in May of 2017 and then have my whole life, right, to enjoy that if I can get it right for the time period after, right? Or do I want to just keep living this low energy, draining life cycle that I was living in, this rut I was stuck in for all these years, and then have it be May of 2017 and I'm still fat and I'm still drinking a lot and I'm still making all these bad choices, the choices that I knew deep down were bad. So I made that decision, and it's an asymmetrical bet, right? So I took 9 months of my life to focus on losing weight, but right now that bet's paid off, or that work's paid off for over 4 years. And I plan on it paying off for the next 50 or 60 or 70 years. Right. So was that time worth it? 100% it was worth it, because that's what, I took the time and made an investment in myself, and I had a lot of problems to solve, but that was the biggest one. And I had to get that right before I could start tackling other problems in my life.
Man, that's huge. And I feel like, man, if people are watching this, a huge takeaway is you made that decision to work on yourself and to prioritize that. And then you had this long-term vision of, it's not going to be a 30-day fix, man. This is going to be like you said, for 50 years, man, and you got to pivot in that long term. And, I know it's super trendy now, and I'd like your advice or your thoughts on this, but, to not call people out or not, and I love everybody, and I know you do too, because I see your tweets, and dude, if you're 450 pounds, I'm going to root for you. I'm going to hug you. I'm going to say, come take a walk with me. We all want everybody to win, but the truth of the matter is, man, I love a lot of people, and bro, if you're obese, you're not really healthy. The odds are it's going to take decades off your life, right? And so you kind of allude to that, this body positive movement, and your kind of thoughts on that as being on one side and now you're on the other.
Yeah, it's crap, really. It's just ways to make people feel better about themselves. But I think deep down, every obese person doesn't like it, because it's a sign of disorder in the body, right? It's not a healthy state of being, no matter what you want to say about it, right? And sure, can you live a long life and be obese? I'm sure you can, right? But you can live a long life and do all sorts of unhealthy behaviors, just eat all the time, right? But that doesn't mean it's what you want to be doing, or it's going to give you a high quality of life. So I think if everybody who was obese was given the choice, none of them would choose to stay obese. It's the issue has been so complicated by so many different factors, and it doesn't need to be that complicated. But there's strong, powerful forces, right? You want to talk about governments and big corporations and social media and advertising that work from the top down, that make it seem like it's this impossible thing to solve for individuals, when it's not, right? It's not, and I'm not special. I'm just one story like this. So you see people on Twitter all the time who are like this. You see people all over social media who are losing weight, right? It's there for everyone. Anyone can do it, right? The information is there. The support is there, but you have to choose the right things to listen to. And, it's got to be a bottom-up movement. It's not going to be a top-down movement, because they're not coming to help you, right? Guys like us will help you, but don't look to people above to come fix your problem. That's not going to happen. That's there's pretty obvious now.
Agenda. Look, man, I mean, if you stayed on the trajectory you were on, let's be honest, you're probably going to need 6, 7, 8, 10 meds a day for the rest of your life. You're a good customer.
For sure, man.
And not a good customer right now,
Yeah, well, you mentioned that I was actually chronically asthmatic, and I took asthma medication for the first 38 years of my life, basically, until I cured my asthma last June, in June of 2020, just by doing some breath holding exercises and switching to nasal breathing all the time. So, I was able to get off all the asthma medication I took, and now I'm doing marathons and half Ironmans with zero symptoms of asthma whatsoever. Like that's not what's holding me back, right? But nobody's ever telling you that, you ever try this? Right? Like, no, that's not how the systems work. And I don't mean it to say that these doctors and things individually are evil. It's just, this isn't what it's focused on, right? You go to the doctor, they're going to prescribe you medications to hopefully fix your problem, right? That's the paradigm it is, but you might not even need that. You know, if you can make yourself healthy, then there might be a way that you can help your condition without all that stuff.
Yeah, man, I can't tell you the number of clients I've had now in coaching and group coaching that have totally gotten off of a lot of the meds they were on and that they were on for decades, you know, and then just literally by starting to walk 5 miles a day, be mindful of the food they're putting in their body, working out a few times a week, drinking lots of water, replacing some of these bad habits. The body's made to heal itself. You know, it really is, man. We're both Zach Hamill fans. I know he preaches this a lot, you know, he coaches me, coached you, I know too. And, you know, I truthfully think, you know, if you go to a doctor and their first response is take this pill, and their first response isn't, what are you eating? What are you putting into your body every day? Can we address your diet? Can we address your lack of movement? You're not really going to a doctor. You're going to a drug dealer at that point, you know? And
how's your sleep?
Yeah. How's your sleep? Exactly, man. These are all things that we should be talking about. And you know, when COVID hit, I was actually very optimistic because I thought, okay, very early on, we knew this was a disease. And like most diseases, they're going to disproportionately hurt people that don't have a healthy immune system and aren't in shape. Right. And so what a golden opportunity as a society to come together and say, maybe these big corporations, we can prioritize movement. Maybe we can make a 30-minute walk. You'll actually be a better employee if you take a walk every day. You know, like there's so many things that would make sense, but again, you're right. They never happen from the top down. And so I love the way you put that. We need to kind of make this bottom up movement and just help people understand that, dude, you're one committed decision away from changing your entire freaking life, you know? And man, I love so much of that, what you said, man. I couldn't agree more. And so on that body positivity movement, I don't think those people are evil either. I think they mean well. And again, I'm going to love everybody, man. I don't care if you're 500, I don't care. I'm going to love you. But at the same time, I'm going to love you enough to tell you, you're probably not living your best life, you know?
100%, man. It was really ultimately about personal accountability in the day for me, right? And I think everybody
that's a conspiracy theory right now, bro. You can't talk about that. Yeah. Zuby's getting censored if you say personal accountability. You can't say that anymore. It's offensive.
Yeah. I don't understand it, right? But I think deep down, everybody who's in the body positivity movement understands that this isn't how it's supposed to be, right? And, you know, but we can lie to ourselves and try to make us feel better in the short term, or we can deal with the hard questions. We can deal with the unpleasant feelings that we have within us and put in the work and overcome it and get to a better place.
That's right, man. Yeah. Amen, man. I hope everybody watching this just takes that step today and uses you as an example from that, man. I wanted to talk a little bit, man. You know, you recently did the 4x4x48 Goggins challenge, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can you describe what this is? I know a little bit about it. I know some of you psychos that are doing this, man. It sounds very intense. Can you tell us about that, what that was like?
Yeah, so it's a challenge invented by David Goggins. It involves the basic version of it is you do a 4-mile run every 4 hours for 48 hours. So for me, that started at 11 p.m. on Friday night. It's a little bit after my bedtime, so I woke up and I ran 4 miles and then went back to bed. And then you hit the run at 3 a.m., you hit the run at 7 a.m., you hit the run at 11 a.m., you hit the run at 3 p.m., you hit the run at 7 p.m., right? So you do that for
24 miles a day back to back then, I guess, right?
Basically, yeah. Okay. So it ends up being 48 miles in 2 days. It's a real... Yeah, I was a pretty good runner, you know, so, you know, the mileage of it wasn't so bad. It was more of a mental challenge. And this is why Goggins invented it, right? This is a mental challenge because you don't get to sleep right, you know, so you're waking up after doing all these runs. And I was doing this in March in New Jersey. It was really unpleasant. It was in the winter, right? It was dark most of the time. You know, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning and I'm going out for my, I don't know, 5th or 6th 4-mile run in a day in 4 hours. And you're like, man, this is really unpleasant, you know, like, but it teaches you to do hard things. Right. Yeah. And, you know, getting through that was really tough, especially that like first full day was really tough. The second day after the sun came out and I got some caffeine in me for the first time in a few weeks, I actually felt pretty good. And I actually finished it stronger. I ran, I think, the last 8 legs faster, consecutively. So I was getting stronger as it went on. It's not really a time competition, obviously. It's more of a mental thing, but it was great doing it, and really taught me a lot about myself, what you're able to overcome, and just it helps set me up for a successful season of racing that I've just had, which has been awesome because it helps build a stronger mind and a stronger body.
Man, that's amazing, dude. That's an awesome challenge. Like you said, I think, I've done a couple of Goggins things, the nickel and dimes. You ever heard of that? The pull-ups?
No, I haven't.
So 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups every minute. You rotate.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all a mind thing. But once you push through and like with you conquering this, man, and even saying, hey, I got stronger as it went on, dude, then when life comes at you and these harder things come at you, dude, you're already calloused. You're already there. You already know you can conquer and do these hard things, man. Can you talk a little bit about that and that principle of kind of do hard things that you kind of live by now?
This is really what's changed my life, and I'll go back to the first triathlon I ever signed up for. And it was, I had 24 days to train.
I had 24 days.
Yeah. So, and I did the Olympic version of it, which is the longer version of it, because I was inspired actually by Goggins' book at the time. Right. So I had just started swimming earlier that summer. So I never really swam before. I took lessons as a kid. So I just started swimming. And I liked it, and I just had the idea I should do a triathlon. So I hadn't ridden a bike in 20 years, but I figured I was in good shape. How hard can it be to ride a bike 18 miles? So I ended up borrowing a mountain bike from one of my coworkers. It was 2 sizes too big. I had the worst bike in the field. It was a 6/10 mile open ocean swim, and it was an 18-mile bike ride and a 5-mile run, 3 miles of which were on sand. So, I just signed up for it and I did it. And I was initially going to do it. I told myself, you know what, I'll do the race in 2020. I'll take a year to prepare for it. I'll get in shape for it. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to do that. If I say I'm doing it next year, I'm never going to do it. Right. So it's either do it now or do it never. So let's just get out there and do it. And I mean, honestly, getting to the starting line of that race was the biggest victory for me. Finishing it was all gravy. But even just getting myself to the start, it was the first race I've ever entered. Yeah. Getting to the starting line of that was great. Finishing it was even better, and then just, so I learned from that doing hard things, it really helps. Right. So I try to do all the hard things I can. One of the races I did this year involved jumping 12 feet off a ferry boat into the Delaware Bay and swimming a mile back to shore. Right. Wow. And I did that with a bad shoulder. I wasn't even sure I could swim the mile, honestly. Right. But when you do stuff like that, it really turns the volume down in your day-to-day problems. Right. Because this is an actual real life problem you have right now, is all of a sudden you're jumped into the Delaware Bay and now you have to go a mile that way. You're in trouble because you're in open water. So once you kind of get through those sort of things, right, running a marathon, all these kinds of things, the problems of your day-to-day life, they're so much more manageable. And like I said, the volume gets turned down because now you know what you're capable of, and you can tackle these things.
Man, that is so perfect. And especially in our society today, everything's easy. I mean, let's be honest, for most people watching this, you have a comfortable home, it's climate controlled, you have a car, it's climate controlled, you have an office, it's climate controlled, you have access to internet now, you can have food delivered anytime you want. Everything's pretty easy, right? And this is one thing I started noticing too. I was on anxiety meds 4 or 5 years ago. I couldn't handle the day-to-day stuff. My boss would yell at me. It would break me, for a couple of days. It would break me. I'd have a client say not nice things to me, and I'd shell up, man. And I'd think about this, keep me up at night, dude. Then I started doing wind sprints in 105-degree heat until I puked, and then doing a couple more. And one day I said, I challenged myself just for the heck of it. I'm gonna do 500 pull-ups today, And bro, I was so sore the next. And I remember I was still working a full-time job. I was getting up at 5:05 every morning. It was 10:30 at night before I finished those last pull-ups, but I'm like, I could only do 4 or 5 at a time at the end. I'm like, I promised myself I'm doing them. I'm proving myself I can do them. And that's just, when you get through things like that, when you run that Ironman, when you swim that mile in open water with a bad shoulder, your boss yells at you and you're like, yeah, Okay, I'll
Yeah.
deal with it, you know? And I think
Yeah.
that's a lesson for anybody watching this, man, is society's not going to challenge you to do these hard things. You got to set these goals for yourself and go out and push yourself. Nobody's going to make you do them. The alarm's
Yeah.
going to go off. Nobody's going to make you get out of bed. You got to do
Yeah.
it despite how you feel.
For sure, man. And, that's really, I hope, people see my content and, see the stuff that I do. And, I put a lot of it out there and, you'll see the things I'm doing now. I hope it's just apparent to everybody that I wasn't like this, right? I have zero athletic background. I was fat as a kid. I stopped playing sports long before high school, right? Like until these last few years, I have like zero athletic ability. So this isn't like I'm not some former college athlete who just got back into running or something like that. Like I started from scratch, right? I built myself in the gym for three years doing weightlifting, doing sprints up hills, pushing the sled, stuff like that, right? Just making myself into an athlete. And now I'm able to tackle these sorts of races and things like that, which is great, and I love it. And that's not obviously going to be for everybody, right? Most people's reasons for getting fit aren't going to be to do that kind of stuff. And honestly, that wasn't my reason for getting fit either. It just kind of happened. But it all starts with that one decision to make yourself fit. Because then once you do that, all the doors are open to you. And maybe that means you have the energy to play with your kids or to start your own business or do whatever you want to do. But, it all comes back to loving yourself and treating yourself right and getting yourself in shape mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah. Can you allude a little bit too to like the difference in your energy level? We've talked about your mindset a little bit because, I think about when you say this, I think of one of my favorite clients, Jared, who, his big why was, hey, I just have kids. And, we take him to these like water slides. And honestly, he goes, we'd go to Six Flags. And after an hour, I couldn't even walk around the park anymore. I had to tell my kids, Dad's got to go sit down. And I'd eat a cheeseburger because I felt bad. And he's like, then we worked together for 5 months. He lost 44 pounds. And, I remember him texting me like a couple months ago. He's like, it just changed my life. I have energy now. My kids I was telling them, hurry up. You got to keep up with Dad, after 8 hours. And that changed his life. He'll never do Ironmans probably, or he'll never do these things, but the day-to-day energy level and the quality of his life has just changed. And I see this over and over. Can you kind of talk about that and how that's changed for you?
Yeah, for sure. And, so I alluded to a little earlier, right? If you go back to 2016, I knew I had a number of problems, right? And I decided to tackle weight loss first and my health first. The other big problem I had was my job. I found it to be very unfulfilling. It was a very low energy environment. But, so I made the choice. I said, I'm going to focus on my weight loss and my health right now. I'm not going to tackle too many big projects at once, right? So I'm going to make do with this job for the time being. It's paying bills, and I'm going to focus on me, right? But eventually, once I got my health situated, I was able to find a new job. And having, I wouldn't have been able to get that job or do that job in my previous state, right? So having those increased energy levels help you across the board, and they really help you in ways that you don't understand. They'll help you sleep better because you're going to be more tired from actually expending your energy throughout the day, right? You're not going to just be in a chronic state of malaise, which doesn't make you tired because you're probably always tired.
Right.
So it's such a big deal, and at the end of the day, we're all just energy as it is. So raising that up and just getting out, moving and challenging yourself, it helps you in so many ways.
Yeah, I always look at my daughter who's 6, man, and I think like we take walks pretty much every night. We play at parks, and like there's not a night that goes by that she's not like, hey, Dad, let's see if I can climb that. Let's see if I can jump this. Let's see. Hey, I'll race you to here. And it's like,
yeah,
why don't adults live like that? And now I start to view life like that, man. I just want to see if I can do things. I remember I was walking this certain loop when I worked at the bank. There's this like giant mountain. And I was always like, I wonder if I could climb to the top of that. And then one day I just hopped 2 fences. I sprinted up this mountain just to see if I could do it. At the end of it, I was bleeding on my legs. And like, I just want to see if I could do it. And I think more adults need to wake up and live like that, kind of how you're talking of like with energy, and I was on that other side too, man, where I hate to admit this, but I used to wake up when my alarm went off first thing I used to think is, I can't wait for this day to be over. I can't wait to be back in my bed with Netflix, eating chips and pizza. And like, I just can't wait to escape, like I have to go to work. I have to do all these things. And it's no way to live, and the coolest thing about being a human is you can change that at any moment with one committed decision. And I think you're such a living testament to that, man.
I agree.
Yeah, man. Well, what's like kind of a current weekend look like for you now versus what it used to look like, say like 5-6 years ago? Can you kind of give us the difference?
Yeah, 5-6 years ago, it would have been a lot of drinking, right? For sure. Drinks on Friday night.
Do you still drink it all now, or have you completely?
I've pretty much kind of cleared it out. I find alcohol when you're in a low state is a very bad thing to consume.
Yeah.
But if you're in a higher state, it's a much different experience. So I think that's part of the reason some people are able to, we'll say, drink and not have become problematic. For other people, it becomes problematic, at least in my experience. Because you're just looking for a way to escape from, like you said, when you wake up and you say, man, I can't wait for this day to be over. Right. Or it's a way to escape from life.
Yeah.
So there would have been a lot of drinking. There would have been watching sports on TV for sure. Right. That would have been
plan my whole week around sports, man. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. So that pretty much would have been most of it. It would have been just drinking and watching sports. Now it's a lot different, right? So I'm usually outside exercising on a weekend, for at least an hour or two, if not 3 or 4, and just, trying to do things to make myself better, and make my life better. And, that's really kind of what the focus is on. And it's not on just, medicating myself or trying to avoid my problems and my life that I don't enjoy.
And that's a powerful thing. That kind of just hit me right there. What you said, I feel like I learned something about myself there. Is probably the hardest part in my life was when I got divorced, maybe 10 years ago now, and I moved to Chicago by myself, and I had this apartment, and bro, I was drinking 6-7 days a week, sometimes by myself, sometimes with friends. I'd come home and it was just to escape, right? And I don't necessarily think there's a problem with having drinks. I'm pretty mindful about when I do now. And like, it's probably a 5-6 time a year thing and only with my wife, just, it's like a happy drinking, like we're out celebrating something or whatnot. But yeah, I think that's a big distinction. If you start to drink to escape, you probably have a much bigger problem you need to address. Right.
Yeah. And I think it's a tough drug, because a lot of the people who are doing it habitually don't understand they're in a low state. I think this is one of the tricky things about, we'll say, energy levels or emotional states. Is I know when I was in a low state, well, that's the way I kind of always was. So I didn't even necessarily recognize I was in a low state. That was just life for me, right? Like I didn't think that the current level that I'm at now was even possible, right? I didn't even dream of life being like this, because I didn't know this could happen. Mm-hmm. So it's you have to take a leap of faith and understand that, it can get much, much better than you maybe realize, depending on how long you've been obese or in a low energy state or been depressed, right? There is something much, much better out there, if you put your faith into it and you're willing to deal with leaving your self-image aside, right? This is a painful thing for people. You have a negative self-image, but it's still more comforting than having no self-image or the complete unknown. So when you're leaving the only thing you've ever known behind and going into the unknown, that could be an uncomfortable place. You got to put your faith into something and understand that, there's a better life out there and things can get much, much better, exponentially so.
Man, that's huge and powerful to know that change is scary, right? We're human beings. Our brains are designed to keep us safe. That's kind of what their main purpose. And so, yeah, it's kind of like letting yourself go to that unknown spot and telling yourself who you can be down the road. But man, I relate to so much of that, what you said, where I didn't really realize I was in a low energy state, or I was in that for a while. And then kind of one day my wife woke me up she snapped a picture of me, and I saw my gut, and I realized I've been laying around watching football for 9 straight hours, and like, this just isn't who I wanted to be,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty huge. Can Can you talk a little bit now, man? I'm really pumped about this. We talked a little bit off stream, but I know you did it just recently, did a retreat with Zach Hamill. He's a man that we both love. I've learned probably more from Zach. I have a notebook down here that has like 18 pages of notes from me and Zach's calls. I go over them like at least once a month.
I remember one too.
So shout out to Zach, man. That guy's doing kingdom work, just crazy. But now you're gonna, I know you're writing an ebook. You're gonna be coaching soon, which I'm so pumped about, man. I think you'll be able to help so many people. Can you talk about that vision that you have for that and where you think that'll go?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, my goal, I would say, would be to change the way the world thinks about obesity, right? And that's a pretty big goal, right? So, I'm going to do that by taking my own advice and breaking it down into much more smaller, more manageable pieces. And it's going to start with some one-on-one coaching, right? I think it's already started with Twitter and social media. I've been able to help so many people on there already, and I feel like it's my purpose. I've gone through all this throughout my life, through the 30 years of struggling with this obesity and my self-image, and getting to the point where I would say I've healed it. As much as I need to anyway to live a happy life, right? I feel like it's my purpose now to share what I've learned with others, because I see so many people out there struggling with so many of the same problems that I've overcome in my life. So, I'm working on a couple of free ebooks that'll help out. One is a practical fat loss guide, and the other is a recipe guide with a few straightforward frameworks for recipes that you can easily modify and help you out on your weight loss journey. And then I'm going to branch off and start doing some dedicated one-on-one coaching, where I'm going to not just teach people the nuts and bolts of fat loss, right? That the kind of stuff you can just Google and get that for free or whatever, right? It's not a secret how to lose weight, but I feel, given all my experience, I have a very unique perspective on the mental and emotional battle that obesity, brings about. And, I can help others overcome that sort of thing. And then, from there, branch out and start helping even more people. That's ultimately what my goal is.
Man, I freaking love that, brother. I think you're going to be amazing at it. I've kind of known that from day one, man, from all our interactions. I've kind of seen this vision of where you're going to go. I think you're going to be a man that really just explodes on social media, even as more and more as you keep going and just helping a ton of people. And, my last guest, Marvin, he was on here a week ago. This guy, check out the podcast before, but he's a multi-millionaire. And, he always says that he doesn't set out to make money. He just sets out to help people. And like, that's the coolest thing that I hear when I hear you talk. And I think we've resonated from day one, man. I'll be honest, some of the free things I've done for people on Twitter that then I hear back and, I'm talking to them and I get DMs about how they changed their life. Those are things that mean the most to me even, and it's just one person at a time, man. If we can help unlock one more person, they start living a great life. Okay, let's get that ripple effect and that ripple effect. And that's how we change the world, man. And I'm happy to be on the same team as Matt.
For sure, man.
Journey through this, man.
And that's how it works, because you helping one person, well, that person can help all these people, right? So if I want to bring it back to the start of our conversation, right? You follow me on Twitter. Well, now I have over 3,500 followers, and I'm helping people every day, right? And then those people are then able to take the things I'm learning and help people every day, right? So that one thing you did, right? It has a ripple effect. And here we are over a year later, and now there's thousands, tens of thousands of people that are benefiting from that. And, that's only going to keep rippling out further and further. So, it's a cliche, they'll say, smiling at somebody can like change the world or whatever, but it's true, because,
true.
You doing one nice thing for one person, it can change thousands, if not millions of lives, and it just think if we all did that and everybody focused on helping each other and, those sorts of things, the world would become such a better place, than it is now. It'd be a spiral of positivity instead of a spiral of negativity. So
that's right.
I try to live my life like that.
Yep. I appreciate that, man. I'm in the same boat as you, man. That's pretty dope. Well, I always end the pod with 5 rapid fire questions. I also want to thank you. You're the first guest to come on shirtless. I love this.
I have to.
I love it, man. I got my man Joey D on here next week. I'm certain
I'm
he's
sure
going to
he'll.
be
I'm
shirtless.
sure he'll be shirtless. Yeah,
But
yeah.
our next guest, Cynthia Thurlow, we're not going to
Probably not.
We want to keep. I keep my timeline PG. I want to keep the podcast PG. So we'll shy away from that. But all right, brother, you ready for top 5 rapid fire questions? First thought that comes to your mind, just fire them away. All right.
All right, let's do it.
All right. What is your go-to song if you're trying to hit a PR or you got that last like half mile that you're drained, but you need that song to fire you up, man? Where do you go to?
So I like to. Well, what I'll say, I don't want to cop out, but I don't ever listen to music when I'm running.
Wow.
So I've done a couple hundred hours these last few years of running pretty much outside with no music. So I don't think I need that, but I do if I'm listening on the indoor bike trainer. I'll fire up. I like to go to the Daft Punk live album. Okay. From 2007, I think it's on Spotify. I think it's called Daft Punk Alive. So I'd probably play that, or I'd play some Kanye probably.
Kanye, nice. More and more people are going to the no headphones, man. I do that for walks and sometimes maybe once every 2 weeks lifting. I'll do and I always enjoy it actually. So I'm gonna start doing that more, I think. All right, man.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, everybody talks about that a lot now. All right, what's one piece of advice you would give for someone who feels just absolutely stuck and they say to themselves, I can't do it. I can't lose this weight. You get to tell them one thing. What are you telling them?
I would tell them that you're wrong and you can do it. Right. And it just involves taking a leap of faith and sticking with the process for longer, and weight loss is about trying things, measuring the results, and making adjustments. So if you're trying things right now and it's not working, then that's okay. You just got to start making adjustments. So maybe that's eating less or eating different foods or exercising more or some combination of those things. But just stick with it and don't ever give up. Just keep finding something you can do each and every day to work and get closer to your goal.
You can't lose unless you quit. If you don't start and you don't quit, you literally, you can't lose, man. It's a cheat code. Consistency is undefeated. All right, man. What's one unique talent that Matt Izzo has that nobody knows about?
Unique talent. I'm pretty good with trivia.
With trivia, you're a go-to guy. If it's trivia night, they need to call Matt.
Yeah, you can call me for trivia night.
Nice, man. What's your go-to recovery meal like post Ironman? What are you eating when you complete this like crazy 6-8 hour race or whatever it is? What's your meal afterwards?
After the Ironman 70.3, I had a prime rib actually with fries and sweet potatoes, because at that point, what the heck, right? I think I had 2 rolls too. It was at Texas Roadhouse. But, normally after training, I like to train in the morning. So I'll come back and I'll have like 6 eggs, some oatmeal, and some fruit.
Nice, man. I like it. What's one goal you want to set here in the next year or so for yourself to accomplish?
I want to get my business off the ground and, start helping people and start making a sustainable living, helping people.
I love that, brother, man. Well, Matt, I appreciate you so much coming on. I've actually had the Jay-Z song in my head for the last 2 or 3 days since we've been chatting a lot. H to the Izzo.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a fun summer for me, actually, when that song came out. So always good memories.
Man, I really appreciate you, everything you're doing. When Matt's ebooks come out, I'm going to come back and link all that on here. I'm going to link all of Matt's Twitter. You're on Instagram too. Anything else I can link under there for Matt? I want to link to his info. Feel free to reach out to Matt if you're somebody who's stuck in weight loss or somebody who just needs somebody to talk to about that. Maybe he can get you on the right road, or you can hire a coach and get him going. That would be amazing, because I look forward to you helping a ton of people, man. I know it's just an honor to have you on here, brother. Thanks for all you share.
Sure thing. Thanks, Ty. And, anybody listening, I have it in my Twitter bio. My DMs are open. I'm here to help you. So I love answering questions for free in the DMs, right? And helping people out. But if somebody needs more in-depth coaching, you know, I'm happy to do a coaching call or whatever, you know, and talk you through it. And then, like I said, I'm building a program to help people and to tackle holistically how to lose weight and keep it off, basically. So I haven't really seen a similar program to what I'm building out there. So I'm pretty excited about it. And, you know, I can't wait to get started with it.
That's awesome, brother. We'll have to have you back on at some point when all this is done too, and go over all that and things like that, man. That'd be awesome.
Anytime, bro.
Well, I appreciate you so much, brother. This is episode 6 of Tyromper's No Limit podcast. We got Matt Izzo today. Again, I'll link everything below. Give a like and a subscribe to the channel if you guys are appreciating the content coming out. We got Joey D coming on next Monday, Cynthia Thurlow the Friday after that. So we'll try and get some other guests. You guys have any other guests you want? Fire them down in the comments too. Let me know who you'd like to get on. And you guys have the most blessed day. Thanks again, Matt, for coming on, brother. Have a great day, my man.
Thanks, Ty.